watching Flagstaff TV. Today we are joined by Gaius King, who is an analyst at Fox Davies Capital. Gaius, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Catherine.
Gaius, can you start by telling us what are rare earths?
They're basically referred as elements, and they cover 11 odd elements that applications. About half of them rely on rare earths.
Thank you. And are rare earths actually that rare?
Look, there is some debate about that. There is a number of commentators that suggest that rare earths such as yttrium and neodymium have crustal balances of chromium, nickel and zinc. But we disagree with that vehemently, actually, because when you're talking about any rare earth or any mineral in particular, even if it's gold, there has to be a certain economic parameter where the extraction is economic. And the amazing thing about rare earths is that most of the economic rare earths that we use today, the critical ones, are out of China. They're out of a single deposit, Bionubu, in Inner Mongolia. And so yes, they are rare, and they are largely uneconomic globally, except what we get out of China.
And what are rare earths mainly used for?
The three main areas. The key use for rare earths with permanent magnets. They're the highest value. They're used in actuators such as fuel injectors, fans, power steering, suspensions, in electric motors, like moving the seats in your car, spares, alternators, and using windscreen wipers, and also in sensors such as ABS airbags, seatbelts. In fact, there's roughly around 200 permanent magnets used in a car, and the net value doesn't seem to be very much at about $80 or $90 US, but their use is critical, and the alternatives are very poor substitutes.
And are all rare earths created equal, so to speak?
Look, no. In fact, we've differentiated between heavy rare earths and light rare earths, and we've always concentrated on light rare earths because that's where the permanent magnets come from. There are more heavy rare earths, but a lot of them don't actually have economic uses just yet. Light rare earths are the ones that are for permanent magnets, and they're primarily, outside of China, they're primarily found in intrusives called carbonatites, and they're not particularly common as a deposit. Their economic enrichment involves, obviously, these carbonatites reaching to the surface and then weathering in situ for a very long period of time. So they're not only rare, but the in situ weathering makes them also rare.
And who dominates the supply here of the rare earths?
Look, China supplies over 50% of the primary supply of rare earths, and that's adding in illegal and official rare earth supplies. But the key thing about China is that they have the technology to process these rare earths downstream. So virtually all the permanent magnet production globally is done out of China. There are 6 major state-owned enterprises in China that do the processing of these rare earths. And then China being, accounting for about 60% of the world's manufacturing base now, those rare earths then go to other companies that turn them into end products, which we buy. So if you look at rare earths in general and the processing and in the products you buy, China controls about 80% of all the rare earths that we buy. But if you look at light rare earths, which is a critical portion of what I guess our focus has been on, China actually controls more than 50%. There's actually only really one supplier outside of China, and that's Linus Corp out of Australia, mining the Mount Weld deposit.
Guys, what's been the supply response to this growing demand?
in short, limited. And just to take a step back a decade ago, we did have a rare earths boom / bubble, and it was sparked by China banning all rare earths into Japan. Japan is the largest consumer outside of China for rare earths. And prices globally jumped tenfold inside of 3 months. And that sparked a global rush, exploration rush. And there was a lot of money spent looking for various deposits around the world to increase supply and resources. So China potentially couldn't, blackmail any other country in the world. And 10 years later, it's obvious there is no real supply other than China. This is the part where people really misunderstand the predicament of rare earths. Rare earths are critical for half the world's technology. There is no realistic or opportune way of substitution, and prices are basically have to double or triple from here for a lot of these deposits to become economic. So supply actually is just as controlled by China now as it was 10 years ago.
Very interesting. Thank you, guys. Now, the UK have decided to ban all combustion engine vehicle sales by 2030. What effect do you think that will have on demand for rare earths?
Well, demand for rare earths, if we follow through with this, the demand for rare earths just from the UK will be extreme. The average electric vehicle consumes about 5 kilos of rare earths, neodymium-based magnets. Now, last year, neodymium iron boron magnet production grew about 5% to around about 7,900 tonne globally. Now, we have 40 million cars in the UK. Now, if we assume that the standard motor in the electric vehicle remains at 5 kilos, and assuming that an average UK car lasts 10 years, we need 20,000 tonne per annum of these permanent magnets, the source of which comes solely from China, or largely from China. All of Mount Weld, Linus's supply goes to Japan, of which last year there was only 8,000 tonne globally. So just for the UK in the 9 years' time to become an electric-only country, we need to find 12,000 tonne per annum, and including the 8,000 tonne that the rest of the world produces.
Very interesting. Thank you, guys. Now, are electric vehicles as environmentally green as they profess to be?
Look, we actually did some work looking at electric vehicles and what they produce, and it basically comes down to where you get your energy. So we looked, half the world's electric cars are actually made in China. And China, in its grid, about 65% of its electricity comes from coal. And then we compared that with the UK, about 40% of the power in the UK comes from gas, 25% from nuclear. And we got a Nissan Leaf and we went through from a mental basis how much CO2 each vehicle produces. And our results were quite stunning. The average electric vehicle, we're assuming that the same vehicles are driven in both countries, the Chinese electric vehicle produces 34% more CO2 than a Mini out of the UK, driven on petrol, and 72% more CO2 than a Mini driven out of the UK that was diesel. And in fact, if you take it on a global basis using mass balance calculations, electric cars at the moment globally produce more CO2 than the average vehicle, petrol or diesel vehicle driven using EU standards. So electric vehicles are clean, but it basically comes down to where the source of your energy comes from. And if the electric vehicles are critically constrained by rare earths, and if we cannot get enough rare earths to drive these vehicles, then we could be in trouble.
Thank you, guys.
as
And
a permit.
certainly in London, we need more charging points, but that's a whole other issue. Guys, what are the key points for us to take away here regarding rare earths?
I think the key point is China controls rare earths. China will continue to control rare earths into the future. That rare earths are becoming more critical, not less critical, with technology going forward. That the really only alternative that exists to increase supply is governments to basically introduce large subsidies to mining companies to produce rare earths to get around the Chinese embargoes, which will inevitably arise as demand exceeds supply, which is expected to occur in the next 2 to 3 years.
Thank you guys for your time today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Catherine.
And thank you for watching Flagstaff TV.